Starting with the lymphatic tissues. Now, this is going to go through some of the organs, the glands that are involved. It says right here, along the pathway of lymphatic flow, lymph will pass through several types of lymphatic tissue. We just looked at this one, and I hope that that kind of interactive computer program showed you a little bit of how the pathway works with the lymphatic system. But lymph nodes do two things: filtering potentially harmful particles from the blood, and like I was saying, returning excess fluids back to the venous system. So we have been there, done that with this. Lymph flowing through these. These are nodules separated into compartments with germinal centers that have B cells. Macrophages are big, angry monocytes that want to eat anything they don't recognize. T cells and B cells are specific immunity, and as the lymph flows through here, it's exiting, it's been filtered. And that's what lymph nodes do. They filter lymph. You know, how many lymph nodes are involved depends on the infection, and they do swell up during an immune response. So there's their structure, surrounded by a fibrous capsule. These compartments within the nodule are called nodules. I had showed you those. That's the little areas with the white center. As lymph goes through the channels, the white blood cells there help destroy, filter out microbes. Now, there are other areas, tonsils, Pyrus patches, and I'll show you that. Now, this diagram, there's the person's head, but I actually have the whole diagram here. These are tonsils. Tonsils are not encapsulated. They don't have a capsule. This here actually has a capsule around it. Lymph nodes, they have a capsule. Most organs and glands by definition, in fact, in lab, you usually have to identify every organ. What is the capsule? What's it do? But lymph nodes have a capsule. So a tonsil is basically a bunch of those lymph nodules without a capsule, but it is lymph tissue. This is a thymus gland. Now, the other part here, and the reason this is being covered like this, is these are like lymph nodes, just without a capsule. But see these areas down here? They're called Pyrus patches. Lymph tissue in the digestive area. There are millions of microbes associated with this area. So it's good to have lymph tissue down there. We'll cover these other organ gland things here in a second. So those are Pyrus patches. As far as location of lymph nodes goes, and I know, I'll have to change that. It says central nervous system. And I know that there's the Pyrus patches, but as far as the location goes, I'm going to use this other diagram, just make it a little bigger. So these here in the neck are called cervical, of course. These are facial. Here in the armpits are the axillary, thoracic. Here, this is the abdominal aorta, and see where it splits where the iliacs are. And where the cisterna chyli is, those are the abdominal lymph nodes. Pelvic, inguinal on each side of the abdomen, the inguinal areas, and pelvics there in the middle. And these have a different name. See the ones in the elbow? They're called the supratrochlear lymph nodes. So that's a little bit about their locations. So cervical, neck, axillary, armpit, inguinal, like I said, sides here, pelvic, where the reproductive organs would be, abdominal, where the cisterna chyli is, thoracic, the chest, and the supratrochlear are the ones in the elbows. So a little bit about these lymphatic organs. Here's a thymus gland. It's really big as a child, and then as a person gets older, it shrinks. And even teenagers, it's very small. I think I have a pretty good. So here's the thymus and the spleen. Yeah, here it is. It says thymus in fetus. See how big it is here in a fetus. That's prior to being born. And then thymus of an adult. See? It's that little bitty area right there. We covered this in the endocrine system. The thymus produces a hormone called thymosin, and that's what causes a lymphocyte to become a T cell. It causes it to differentiate and mature. So it's an important organ. Large in childhood, diminishes as adulthood. The spleen, kind of an interesting organ. That's the one that when you were a kid, and I could probably get one now if I tried, if you take off running a lot of times without warming up, there's a lot of blood in the spleen, and it's trying to get rid of the blood so it can ship that blood to the muscle, so your cardiovascular can get the blood to muscles, and it will start squeezing and it hurts. It's located on the left side. Here's the liver, there's the stomach, and then here's the lobes, lung lobes, left side, right side. That's the spleen. The spleen filters blood, very important part. And I'm not sure this diagram helps, but remember we did the splenic artery and vein with the models in lab. But the largest lymphatic organ, located in the upper left quadrant, has sinuses, which are like hollow areas where the fluid can go through. In this case, it's blood. These white areas are sinuses. Has two kinds of tissue, white pulp and red pulp. You see this in the bottom corner. See the lighter areas? That's where the white blood cells are found. And all the areas that are red around it, it's actually called red pulp. That's the blood flowing through the spleen. And the spleen filters blood. It takes out damaged red cells, platelets, microorganisms. Don't really have to have the spleen. If a person loses their spleen, the way it was described to me, let's say if you get sick and it takes 2 weeks to get over an infection, if you don't have a spleen, it might take 3 or 4 weeks. It just slows down everything because it is a big part of the immune system. So the white pulp, islands of nodules like a lymph node, and the red pulp is the areas that are called sinuses. Now they're like the white spaces that flow through like a sponge in the spleen. So tonsils, thymus, here's the spleen. These are Peyer's patches, and that is the appendix, that little guy over there. Don't use that either. It's on the right side. This is called the ascending colon. It's full of lymphoid tissue. Occasionally things can get plugged up in there, and there's actually a cancer of the appendix as well. But it doesn't really do anything. We don't use it. And if it gets infected, you got to get it taken out. Flow of lymph, and then we're going to after this, we'll move on to the next section, but you have to be familiar with this pathway. So it goes from capillaries to vessels. We did that. To a lymph node. So the capillaries would be, you can't see them. These are the vessels. There's a lymph node, which exits with another vessel. The vessels eventually go to the trunks, which are the bigger areas, and then the collecting ducts. All right, just to give you a really up-close view, you can see right here, this is the thoracic duct. And if you turn it around this way, on the other side, oops, I didn't want to do that. I should have left it where it was. But see where it's connecting? That's the right lymphatic duct. And these are the brachiocephalic veins. There's one on that side. That's the left. This is the right. And then up here is considered the subclavian. And every textbook says this is dumping into the subclavian veins. But just to give you a little closer view, if I can get there. Ooh, that's really close. See where so this is draining all the lymph from the whole body except for the right arm and chest. And then on the other side, if I can click on it over there, and this, I love this program. It's called Visible Body. But sometimes the control of it's a little insane. I don't want to give you a headache watching this. Okay, well, there you go. You can see where it's connecting. And that's the right lymphatic duct. And that's all that lymph is draining into this. And then there's some lymph nodes. So that's where they connect. And then the blood flows down into, there's the superior vena cava. And then there's the there's the heart. So makes a vicious cycle. So I hope that helped to show where these actually connect. It's a really easy way to do that. And then the circulation of lymph depends on muscle contractions of the lymphatic vessels. They do have smooth muscle, breathing movements, contraction of muscles there, body movements, breathing movements. And the valves prevent blood flow. And if any point, if the lymph system gets obstructed, then you do have swelling and edema. And that's what elephantiasis is. And elephantiasis is where these vessels get blocked and the fluid drains down to the legs. If it's on this side, it ends up on the arm. If it's guys, it ends up south of the border sometimes. But the fluid will actually drain down to the legs. Okay, I will start here next for our final video.